there's life study and then there's studying for the exam, right? But there's one thing that you have to have for both, and it's passion. Passion is,
Totally.
and passion is what's going to take you past, just learning what you just need to know, right? So just keep that in mind. I mean, if you're studying something or trying to learn something that you have no passion for, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, go learn something
It's going to be
else.
a chore, isn't it?
Yeah. And trust me, I've been there. And a chore is when you're reading something and you're just crying and you don't know why you're crying. That is, I've been there, so.
That's the whole. Yeah, no, I've read this 4 times and I still it just is not going anywhere.
That was
Put it down,
ring.
walk away.
That was token ring for me. Learning token.
Some of us actually had to do.
Derek, I think that's a really interesting point, right? Is that there's a very unique individual that goes into, or at least tackles this certification, and it's part stubborn, part dreamer, part kind of real solid process engineer as well. And it's for the longevity, you got to keep that dreamer piece going, because and really loving the technology and just nerding out on all of it. That's what keeps it alive.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why the continuing ed path for recerting, right, helps keep with that alive, right, and going on.
Yeah, but I think Rick, that also there is a trick to keep that. First, you need to have passion for what you're learning, as Derek mentioned. But the part of the passion is to keep forcing the fundamentals in your mind. Tony Robbins once said, the road to mastery, or to being an expert, is to master the fundamentals. And if you think about it you will know it's true, because experts they gain experience from situations in life and from things they used to do and use critical thinking for things they wanted to predict. That would be that direction for solving that problem, or that will go for that direction to narrow down a solution for a certain problem. But their toolkit is always mastering the fundamental of things. And if we keep having a routine, and one of the study trick I use always is to use spaced repetition. So I put in the calendar some, if I wanted to retain the knowledge of fundamental of routing, or fundamental of layer 2 switching, or fundamental of switching, things that you see it in CCNA, CCNP, and CCIE level, but you tend to forget during the day-to-day work, or tend to forget because you diversify yourself in different things. I use like a recurring calendar for doing spaced repetition on some of the fundamental things. I put in a list and say, okay, I do not want to forget about that. I don't want to forget about that. I do not want to forget about OSPF, about PGP, about SIP trunking, about RTP, about things I found it's a good, it's important to me to return for life to maintain the mastery of fundamental. So that's what I think might be a good thing, to make sure you already on the spot what to answer to what question about the fundamental thing about a certain technology.
When I hear fundamentals, right, especially in this field, the first thing that I think of, and this is again, I'm probably, most of you guys, or all you guys, probably can relate to what I'm talking about, is just basic TCP/IP. No matter what technology you are in the whole CCIE realm, IP is the fundamental of all of it. And it used to be, back in the day before we had the plethora of tools, you can diagnose every network issue by just a simple trace, a capture, Wireshark trace on the network. Today, I find that's a lost art. Maybe because people just automatically jump to with conclusions, but I just don't think people have a firm grasp of the fundamentals to even be able to go back and look through a trace and be able to identify patterns. And that's the fundamentals that I have a passion for that I think that you guys are alluding to.
Yeah. Well, that's the double-edged sword with learning, right? A lot of that trace now has been replaced by a tool, right, in your everyday job where you've got that whole network map visualized automatically, right? Whether it's through an ACI GUI or whatever. So there's not as many opportunities to, in a day-to-day, dig down into those fundamentals, right? Just like when you go into a room and turn on a light switch, a lot of times you don't care where the power's coming from, right? But you have to go learn about electricity. And the same thing, I think now it's harder to go. You have to make time to go back and get those fundamentals and understand the why that is kind of lost, right? Or taken for granted.
I disagree with you a little bit. I think that what you're alluding to, Rick, is not alluding to, but I think the problem is people trust configuration. They trust what you see, and
Right.
it has to be something that's broken. Whereas I don't know. Well, I'm not even going to date you guys, but I know at least a couple of you guys, John Gibbs. You guys know back in the day when there was an issue with a Cisco router, you sniffed. You did not. I mean, you took enough because it could have been the Cisco router had a bug, right? Today,
That's like now.
it doesn't. It is bug free, but so the trust is in the configuration. People say I trust this configuration so much that it can't possibly be a problem with this. Let me open up a tag case, and come to find out that you probably could have resolved an issue a lot better if you took a capture, you knew what was going on, you can prove a little better. You say, look, TAC, this is not right, and that element is gone. What's there is, hey, I have it configured like this, I had it configured last time like this, and it worked. And that takes away from a lot of stuff.
See, I think it even goes further than that,
Think about
Derek.
how bad it's going to get.
Go ahead, Rick.
Just think of how bad it's going to get when you have, reference architectures and, fixed configuration from the manufacturer and, all these built-in, plug and play networks where you're trusting that configuration, and, people are going to lose the troubleshooting skills because it's going to be all abstracted from them. And that's something, we talked a lot about with programmability, with, controller-based networking and all of that, is how do the engineers coming up, how do they learn the fundamentals? How do they learn what the underlay is doing to see, or to even troubleshoot the overlay, because they're sitting there and they do their job, they push a button or they run a script.
Yeah.
And it's big things, Yeah,
and that's where I think, it's not just knowing the config, right? I think, Derek, it goes beyond that, because in a lot of things today, you don't know the config. Like, what button you clicked in a GUI, right? But you don't know the actual config that gets pushed down. I've been doing some DNA center training, right? And going through and looking at that kind of setup process for that. And, basically as a part of that install process of a DNA center appliance, it's got to call home, right? Back to the, Cisco web, where it downloads all the firmwares. It knows exactly how things are cabled and discovers the fabric, similar to what ACI does in the data center, right? So a lot of that underlying foundation, basically, if you know how it's cabled, that's all you see, right? Because everything else is auto magic through automation and stuff like that. And you get a green checkbox in a UI that says your fabric's good. Great. Yay. Right.
How many times is it? But that's the point.
Yeah, but Rick, that's what I'm trying to. I'm not talking about physical. I'm not talking about CLI. I'm talking about what happens when that green button doesn't illuminate or whatever.
I was going to say that.
When you said config, I thought you meant like syntax, like CLI, like this is what I did last time.
But I suppose
guarantee you're going to say this green button is not there. Let me open the tag case. But then there's probably an underlying factor. Maybe your connectivity ain't already established, or maybe but some underlying factor that you could probably go to and resolve the issue. Maybe there's an access list to the network that you didn't, your troubleshooting steps.
Right.
You don't really know them. You jump from A to, hey, Peter, I'm here, open my tag case at a level 2. You know what I mean? So you missed a lot of steps in the middle.
I think as well, right now, you going down the road of putting any kind of SDN type solution in place. You still got to integrate it with something that's not. You've still got to be able to understand the impact of migrating from something that isn't to something that is. And so a lot of that you still got to learn, and you still got to know how that functions. And if anything, it's worse, because you've got to understand, right, okay, how does my underlay interact with my network, and what does it need to make it function? So you talked before about call home and that sort of stuff. You need to make some provision for that. You need to think about, right, how do I get routing from my controller to my devices, and how do I make that happen? How does my tunneling work for my wireless networks? All of that stuff, you still need to know it. If you want to do this properly, you still need to know. And I think this is where the fundamentals are still vital, and you can't get away from that. If you want to do this properly, you have to know that stuff, because that migration and integration piece is never going to go away.
Right.
True.
So I think, for me, studying an SDN environment is that much of it. It's understanding how how the pieces are put together to create that, and how it integrates with the bigger picture.
Hey, John Gibbs, how do you study?
So I use lots of different methods. A lot of it's been mentioned already. I mean, back in the day, obviously, we all used physical books, which is
Wait a minute. You mean the CD?
No.
The CD that used to come with your router.
I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say a slate and chalk there for a minute.
Oh no.
Man,
Wow.
Hey, don't laugh.
That's all right.
That was a big concern when I took my CCIE.
No, because you got to think about it.
I used that CD.
University was actually
I
a
used
CD
it.
back then.
You're a bit young. CD. I used to have a boot full of actual paper manuals. I think you used to get a set of paper manuals with every router that shipped.
Yes.
That's
And
right.
there was a competition to
free in my shelf.
find a box with the up-to-date manuals in it.
That's right.
No, sorry. I must be the young one. I don't remember.
Young
What
one.
year did those Cisco press books start coming out?
3-ring binders.
Ring binders.
That's a good question, Derek.
That was like
Books.
98.
Nothing wrong with books. There you go. 2 books. Still in the corner of the office.
Yeah.
Perfectly goody.
One
For
of,
some
hey,
study
it's one of
time.
them Derek's.
Oh no!
I was looking him up actually. Derek Winchester.
Can you check
author.
Derek's book? Yeah.
Oh god! Do you know what, Derek?
Hey, Derek, to answer 1996, it looks like.
Yeah, well, and
What's
you gotta
Wikipedia?
think, they were too expensive for me back in the day. So I used to take those CDs that used to come with the routers, and that's really how I studied.
Yeah.
Those.
Yep, the University.
And make sure I had one of those console cables that you had to actually put together. Remember, I used to get mad. Why the hell did they? What's that RS-232 connector? Why couldn't you put them together? Why I have to put it together? Yeah. Back in the day.
It helps with your fundamentals for pinouts.
The fundamentals of pinouts. Love it. Love it.
Well, hey, man, think back to where it all started, when it was dip switches to configure the interfaces on the IGS and the AGS. Yeah, that was fun.
I'm out.
But again,
Compiling code.
because every 2-day CCIE is going to make that argument. It was tougher back then. It was not. I'm going to tell you right now, it was easier back then, because for routing, all you had to know was EIGRP, OSPF, RIP, maybe IGRP, you know, maybe it's rare.
DevNet, X25.
Okay,
No.
Token ring.
Can't agree with that, mate. Token ring,
ATM.
IPX, SPX,
IPX,
Apple
SPX.
Tools.
Wait, time out. IPX, Novell was the easiest. If you were a network engineer in an IPX network, you had the easiest job whatsoever. Show IPX servers. I mean, it wasn't difficult, but we got paid, but it wasn't difficult. So don't even start saying it's me. It was easy back then. Now, shoot, you need 5 chapters. You need 5 different books just for one technology. It's a lot complex now, and that's why engineers are coming out lazier than they
I was
did.
going to say, so is that the problem where then, you know, where we're talking about fundamentals, the fundamentals are that much broader. There's so much more to learn to cover that.
There's a lot to know. You've got to know all the network, admittedly not the old protocols that we don't have now. So we're IP6 based. You get that as a base network, but you're into the hosts with programming language, Dockers, I mean, Pythons, Chef, was it Chef's puppets and all the rest. It's a constant changing world. And I think some of the way the studying changes, I think also depends on how the software is being supplied and how that changes. You know, you get a free version of whatever that you're expected as a developer to sort of put on your machine and just play with and read the online paperwork.
Well, here's the one thing that you guys are forgetting, though. Today, the role of the engineer is to be able to talk business requirements. So not only are we the ones underneath the covers looking at, you know, rolled out technologies, but the overall approach that we have to have is to understand business fundamentals, to understand the business approach of these technologies, to be able to sell it. And that's a very and you start talking about CCDE and all the design elements, that's exactly what we're faced with, and that's not so difficult to keep on top of as well. So
there was a good article I read today that I saw posted by someone in the channel's partner organization at Cisco, Alex Pujols. He talks exactly about that, right? The role of the engineer has completely shifted from being that, you know, that master of technical to continuing to do that, right? You have to know how to fix stuff and what knobs to turn and, you know, lights to make sure are lit. But you also have to know to go to a CFO or CIO and have those more business value discussions, right? As opposed to you know, why we're doing this way, right? Because it's cheaper.
This is the design aspect we're talking about, right? Which we mentioned before is being included more and more. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and the architecture side of things.
It's more than
definitely.
just design.
Well, I mean, you get that,
right?
it's testing that you're a trusted advisor, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was a great article that I saw posted today.
go ahead, Rick. It's way more than just
the key piece here is that business has absorbed IT and is using it as a tool for business now. So that's what's changed the interaction. Now the business realizes that it can't get, you know, its job done without IT and vice versa, right? So, you know, IT can no longer be a blocker, a hurdle, a cost center. You've got to be an empowerment to the business itself. So with that shift in the way IT interfaces with the business, we have to develop the business acumen.
That's
Absolutely.
yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much, there's so much impact to everything we do technically, I suppose, you know, both adverse and positive, that you need to understand the context, right? Yeah, I agree totally.
So going, you know, we talked a lot about what kind of work studying. What about for what hasn't worked for y'all? Like, I mean, one of the things that is standing out in my mind, and I'm asking this question to kind of get some feedback is, you know, one of the things that I found is I've got to focus on one thing. Like I've tried to do multiple certifications at once, like go get, you know, AWS and Cisco and GCP and study all simultaneously. And I've realized that I've got to focus and immerse myself to get to that point and learn. So I can only focus on one at a time.
Same here, Rick. Yeah.
I'd go for that. I'd echo the passion thing. So if I'm not interested, I cannot force myself to study it.
Yes.
And the thing as I think I learned as well is not to use too many resources. So you need to focus on you need to plan your study very well. Plan your time, plan your resources, and restrict and focus on 2 to 3 resources you actually you will use. Don't distract yourself for too many learning websites right now. You can learn from on INE, you can on Cisco Learning, you can so many resources. So just focus on 2 to 3 resources, and preferably to be one from each learning style, like one book, one video resources, one, or maybe follow a podcast, or you wanted to or you wanted to have a lab, so you decide, of course, your lab work, but the idea is to make sure you focus on 2 to 3 resources max. So.
I think
That's
that
true.
those resources have to be recommended or at least trusted.
Exactly.
Because that's the danger, right? Is that I had this problem for one of the AWS certs that I tried. I had two different sets of video resources. One said one thing and went down one path. One was different. And then when I went and looked at the reviews for them, you could see that the people who were successful were following one path and not the other. So you've got to go through that process.
Do your research very well and plan it.
I think age and experience plays a little bit in how we all, do that. Like for me, going back to your question, Rick, I have to, how do I say this? Before I dive completely into a subject, I have to be able to explain. I have to know the why. I have to sit there and, for example, you talk SD-WAN. I have to know why from a high level standpoint, from a business case and so forth, which really means looking at, a lot of sales and marketing data, right? And then once I can address it, then I'll catch my mind trying to say, hey, now look at the how. How does this work? How do we achieve all this stuff? And that makes it a lot easier for me to focus on sitting through a couple of 8-hour videos or whatever I do to prepare, or even go through a book. It gives me that hunger to go through and try to find an answer to my question. Which result is maybe a couple of years ago, I would start out how, and then I would sit there and try to define why as I'm looking on how to do it. And I realized that my mind just became it was hard to stay focused, right? Because you don't know how the book ends. I'd rather know how that book ends while I'm studying, right? So that's why it's experience plays a part in it, because, you have to motivate yourself. Just like if you go back to the gym, you have to remember how to stretch, all the boring stuff, stretch, warm up before you actually work out. I'm trying to stretch and work out, warm up my mind before I actually start diving in to learn the particular technology. So.
It's context, isn't it? It's basically saying, right, how do I set the context to mean that I've got a reason to be doing what I'm doing? So, yeah.
Because for most of us, this is not the first time. This SD-WAN, what was it? PFR, was a lot of stuff. I mean, we keep reusing the same technology over and over. Mainframe, cloud computing. There's a lot of parallels. So, this is just relearning things in a different way, but pretty much the same model. You know what I mean? So,
nothing's new.
That's it. Rule 11.
Yeah.
Rule 11, RFC 1925, isn't it? Everything just gets regurgitated. That's same ideas. Okay, guys. Well, listen. Fantastic chat, as Derek said before. Really good to see you all again. It's been a while since we've had so many of us on a call. So yeah, good to catch up. We've got some more coming up with more interesting topics, and we'll keep doing these. But more videos on the way. So anyone who's been watching, thank you for making it this far. If you're interested in more, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Any comments and complaints and criticisms, well, you can keep those, but any good comments and likes, you know what, which buttons to press. Hopefully we'll speak to you again soon. Guys, thank you very much. See you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
See you,
Take it
folks.
easy.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Great talking to you.
There, guys.
Thanks, guys.